We're here today to examine the rising cost of food and its impact on federal child nutrition programs. The federal child nutrition programs are vitally important to our efforts to promote good health, prevent childhood obesity, and address hunger and food insecurity. From the WIC program that helps provide nutritious foods to pregnant women and young children, to the national school lunch and breakfast programs, which provide healthy meals and snacks to an estimated 31 million students. These programs make a real difference in schools and communities where children struggle with hunger and poor nutrition. Federal child nutrition programs account for fully 1/4 of the U.S. Department of Agriculture's domestic food and nutrition assistance outlays. In fiscal year 2007, USDA spent $13.4 billion on these programs that provide a nutritional safety net for children. Unfortunately, that investment is being undermined by rapidly rising food costs, which are driven in large part by exploding energy costs. Make no mistake about it, a major factor behind rising food prices in the federal child nutrition programs and on supermarket shelves around the country is the cost of fuel and the impact of America's energy policies. I'm glad we're here today to discuss the impact of rising food prices on child nutrition programs, but we shouldn't be having this conversation in a vacuum. We cannot afford to ignore the role of energy policy in the food cost equation. We have energy policies, or a lack thereof, that are driving up prices at every stage of the process, from greater competition for land and increased feed costs driven by ethanol mandates, to the higher cost of transporting foods and stocking grocery shelves and school pantries. Because of the price at the pump, food prices are inextricably linked to energy prices. Given these facts, one would assume that the House would be acting aggressively to tackle high energy prices. After all, there's no shortage of ideas about how to rein in energy costs and put America on a path to energy independence. Before the Memorial Day break, House Republicans outlined an all-of-the-above energy plan to increase production of American-made energy, encourage more conservation and efficiency, and promote the use of alternative fuels. Republicans are also signing discharge petitions so that important energy reforms that remain bottled up in committees are finally given the up or down vote they deserve. So what is the majority doing about the energy crisis that is driving up food costs and making it more difficult to combat hunger in our schools? According to an article that appeared in the Hill newspaper just yesterday, and I quote, "Worried that a floor vote on any energy-related measure would trigger a Republican forced vote on domestic drilling, the leadership has scrubbed the floor schedule of the energy legislation that it vowed to tackle after the 4th of July recess. That is unconscionable, and the American people agree. Poll after poll has shown that Americans agree and recognize the need for comprehensive energy solutions, and a growing majority of Americans now support increased domestic production. According to a recent CNN poll, 73% of Americans support offshore drilling for oil and natural gas in the U.S. waters in order to increase the availability of American-made energy. Yet the Democratic Congress continues to throw up roadblocks to real energy reform. I'm deeply concerned about food prices. The federal child nutrition program serves some of the most vulnerable members of our society, and we cannot allow high food prices to prevent us from giving nutritional support to those in need. It's time to have a real conversation about America's energy policies, and it's time to take real action to bring down prices. As today's hearings will demonstrate, the cost being borne by our children, families, schools, and communities is just too great. I yield back.